sustainable development. So hence the different authors, different researchers, different institutions proposed several concepts, several indicators, several methodologies to estimate or measure the sustainable development. But the most important methods which are used in practice to measure the sustainable development as one composite indicator, as a composite method, because if you get into the indicators of sustainable development, there are large number of indicators. So you cannot have an inference or a conclusion from observing every indicator. What best we can do with that particular indicator is that, so whether there is an improvement or a stagnant or a decrease in that particular indicator or a particular goal. For example, there are 17 goals. Even by evaluating that 17 goals, might be your interpretation is whether is there any improvement in sustainable development cannot be done by using just one of the indicator. So like no poverty or no inequality or like that. So that's why the methods earlier we were discussed is they are the aggregate methods, they are the average methods. So which means they provided us only a unique value. So by having that unique value, we are able to estimate. For example, if you take the GNNP, at the end you will get one value, a typical value. Based on that typical value, you can do two things. And of course, in most of the cases, as the researchers, all of us knew that we can do two things, two kinds of analysis. So the one is a spatial analysis and the other one is a temporal analysis. So in most of the empirical works related to, of course, development in general, even in case of sustainable development, probably you have seen only these two kinds of analysis, and also the combining these two. There is a spatial analysis is just taking a particular point in time and comparing your selected variable. For example, even if you take the sustainable development and the indicator or the value of the sustainable development or the report of 2020, 22, then the spatial analysis is comparing all the states of India and their position in overall index. Overall index is sustainable development index. For example, if you take sustainable development index as a India whole, it is 66, okay, 0.66. But if that is 66. But if you take each one, there is a differences in that. So that's why there is a difference of the sustainable value in Kerala with Karnataka or with any other northern Indian state. So if you're comparing this kind of analysis, it is called as a spatial analysis. The temporal analysis is a time series analysis. So that means the value which we have estimated for a single period is not same over a period of time. That is even if you take Karnataka as a state within India or India with comparing other countries, okay, the status of India in terms of its development is not same. So your purpose is to compare the status of or the achievement of sustainable development of India in the previous year, okay, and year before to the previous year, 5 years back. So this is called as a temporal analysis. And further, just temporal analysis is not enough. Further, again, there is not a spatial analysis is not suffix. We need to also observe the countries or the states over a period of time. That is in econometrics or in research in general, that is called as a penal data analysis, a longitudinal type of analysis. That is the comparing the same objects, comparing the selected objects, states or regions or the countries for many years. Okay. In this case, okay, some of the participants are not muted your gadget, please I request you to please be mute or put your mobiles in mute. Yellappa. Hello, Yellappa. Please put your yeah. Because that is disturbing not just me, all the participants. Okay. So that is the third way of doing any kind of research is comparing with both the spatial or observing both the spatial and temporal characteristics. So to do all these things, you know, we of course we need aggregate measures. The measures thus far we were discussed in the previous session, like you can take GNNP or you can take genuine savings of India and comparing with other countries in 2020-22. So that is a spatial analysis. And if you take just India only and take that is the genuine savings of India for the last 10 years or 20 years, that becomes a temporal analysis. Okay, that tells you about the trend, whether is there any improvement over the period or not. And whereas in case of spatial, comparing India with other countries, that only show you whether India is doing better or not compared to other countries. These are the purposes of use of not just in case of sustainable related analysis, sustainable development related analysis, any analysis, any research work, we can do all these things. For that purpose, of course, we need the aggregate indices to measure the sustainable development of an entity, a country as a whole, a state as a whole, and with all the indicators, So these were the things which we were noted, and also we were noted the theoretical justification for using that particular aggregate method of measuring sustainable development and their own limitation. It is due to because of that complexity in the definition of sustainable development itself, as of course we are all noted. So this is the points which we had a discussion briefly in our previous session. And in continuation of that, of course, as I also told you that, say, in case of measurement aspect of sustainable development, so one of the methodology that has been followed for conceptualization, thematization, and operationalization of that, so that is classified into the well-being year and now, well-being year and later, and the well-being year and elsewhere. So based on that approach also, some indicators have been identified, which have given a thematical background for that, and those indicators are being used in literature to estimate or to compute the sustainable development. So let us once again, of course, I continue with that. This is another method of measuring sustainable development classified into these three groups, and this is, of course, as we already noted that. So this method of sustainable development estimation based on that first definition given to sustainable development by that the Brundtland Commission or the Brundtland report. Among these three, the first, as we already noted, that the human well-being here and now. And of course, there is no theoretical consensus on how to measure human well-being of the present generation. There is differences in the opinion, as all we know. Then essentially, human well-being is determined by what people regard as important in their life. So we can say that how we can define that human well-being. That is, human well-being is determined by what people regard as important in their life. Because I have to say, or you have to say, what is important to me. Because what is important to me might not be important to others. That's why it is a subjective one, a psychological one. So in calculation or in estimation of the present generation's well-being, so we should have to take into account that is what is important for a person, or it is the perception of the person regarding its own well-being, perception of the person related to the well-being of that particular person. So that's why it is what people regard as important in their life is considered as the well-being, as all of us knew. This can be a mix of subjective and objective measures. So just we have noted that the main theme are identified in the pragmatic way, though there are some subjective perceptions related phenomena or the concepts are involved in that say well-being or the human well-being, but a methodology to estimate that, because it is a quantitative one, we need a pragmatic approach for that. The pragmatic approaches, or the other meaning of the pragmatic approaches, or the pragmatic way is, it is a practical approach. We have needed to quantify it. So otherwise, if you are not able to quantify, then you cannot able to compare it. You are able to say, interpret that. So because of this, though this human well-being that includes both subjective and objective concepts, and both subjective and objective measures, but a methodology should identify a pragmatic or a practical way to represent this what people regard as important for their life, that is human well-being. First, in this pragmatic way of identification, the various perspectives on measuring human well-being are discussed, starting out from an exploration of the academic literature. So that is based on the academic literature. So the researcher, the person who proposing this particular methodology, has to explore the ideas of the previous researchers, research works. And the second one is a selection of the theme is made based on the number of the important empirical studies. So that means both to propose any methodology, so both theoretical and empirical research works guides or guide a person to make any research methodology. So even in our own research, general research, which is conducted to solve a particular problem, also there we were noted that that a research methodology, before coming to research methodology, are to identify the gap or even to identify the tools or the techniques which has been used by the previous persons. So we can get it from two things. One is theoretical explorations, the other one is the empirical work. The same is also holds good for proposing the methodology for estimation of the sustainable development. Then the measurement of human well-being related to this first phenomenon, that is here and now, that is how to measure the present well-being of the peoples. That is the first aspect in case of the sustainable development that distinguishes the following themes. That means that make use of these following themes to measure the well-being of the human during current period, present period, that is here and now. They are the subjective well-being, consumption and income, nutrition, health, labor, education, housing, and so on. So these are the few themes which have been identified by the UN, related to this here and now, or to measure the human well-being in the current period. So then the next, as we already noted, the part of this methodology is human well-being later. That is the future generation implications of the current consumption or the current human activities. Then how to account it, how to measure it, how to define it. That is the second important part in developing any indicator and a procedure for measuring it, that is called as human well-being later. The well-being of future generations is depend on the resources the current generation leaves behind, which is known to all of us. So that's why the well-being of the future generations depends upon the resources which we have saved for consumption of the future generation in the future period. The abundant literature related to this, that is, we should have to measure the capital. Earlier we have noted that is the natural capital, the other kinds of capital has to be included in this aspect, which has been extensively discussed in the literature. Based on that, any human development, any sustainable development method that taken into account or proposing a method to measure this, the implications of the current consumption on the future generations' welfare, or that is called human welfare or human well-being later, should be considered this. And the assets that should be preserved for future generations fall under 4 main types of capital, as earlier we have noted: economic capital, natural capital, human capital, and social capital. So then So the endowment of these 4 types of capital has to be estimated, and the amount of consumption of this capital has to be also estimated by the current generation, and how much that is leave behind of this capital or left out after consumption of the current generation. So this has to be taken into account in measurement of the amount which is available for the future generation. The measurement system estimates the current level of capital, just I have told you that, and their increase or decrease to show how the choices of the present generation might impact on the future generation. It does not, of course, aim to forecast the well-being levels that may be attained by the future generation. So in terms, in calculation of this future generation's well-being, so there is no predictions, there is no forecasting is not done under this methodology. So it is only taken into account the amount leaves behind in terms of this capital abundance. So this is related to the second framework for development of any method of measuring sustainable development, and related to the measurement of these 4 capitals: economic, natural, and say that is the social capital, human capital. So how these capital has to be measured, and of course in most of the studies, and also the majority of the authors, they have used the international standard that is based on the system of national accounts. For example, the human capital is defined as a knowledge, skill, competencies, and attributes embodied in human individuals that facilitate the creation of personal, social, and economic well-being. That's why how to account, how to gauge, how to measure the human capital, the stock of human capital. So in measuring stock of human capital, human knowledge has to be considered, human skills has to be considered, and competencies has to be considered, and the attributes has to be considered. So like this. So in measuring this, the well-being in the future, well-being in the later periods, so every capital has to be defined, and the parameters has to be included, has to be decided, and how these parameters has to be estimated, has to be decided. So these are all the second aspect of measuring human well-being in later. Then the last but not the least, in proposing any human development approach, the methodologies or the measurements should include the third part also, that is the part related to elsewhere, that is human well-being elsewhere. This elsewhere dimension captures the way in each countries affect the human well-being of the rest of the world. As earlier we have noted that, so the any consumption that has been taken place in any country or any production or generally any human activity that affect the well-being of the peoples in the other country, that also has to be calculated or included in calculation and estimation of the sustainable development. And this is called as transboundary impacts, as we already noted that. So these kinds of activities may impact the other countries via various channels. So for example, the indicator on international aid from developed countries to the less developed countries. So that is a boundary effect. So that is the some of the developed countries, they provide aid for the developing countries. So that affects on the production and consumption of the developing countries. That has to be included in sustainable development estimation. So, and that is of course called as official development assistance. The another example is the extent to which one country may deplete the resources of the other country. So that is the so-called footprint indicators, which calculate the environmental pressure attributable to consumption in one country and the resources abroad. So because of this global warming, as all of us knew that how that global warming is threatened to achieve these sustainable development goals. So of course, climate change and so on. So of course, they are the transboundary kind of effects on the human development or the sustainable development. That kind of all the effect of climate, effect of other such global warming has to be included. Along with, of course, the activities of the other countries in calculation of sustainable development. So this is the one more methodology that has been proposed in literature as a part of measurement of sustainable development. But of course, what thus far we were discussed in this session related to a methodology proposed by UN related associations, okay, of the human well-being present and now and here and now and say then later and elsewhere. Of course, they are conceptually defined like this. So this is the capital and human well-being. So the human well-being, of course, depends upon the level of consumption. If you get into the pure economics, the human well-being can be measured in terms of the consumption, all types of consumption. That, of course, it depends upon the that is the capitals. That is the 4 types of capitals. Thus far, we were already noted that. That's why the human well-being, if it is measured in terms of consumption, depends upon the availability of the capital. But in use of this capital, that affects for increasing the human well-being, that affects on environment, that is ecological well-being, is depends upon the extraction or using this capital. That's why earlier somewhere we are noted that in defining that sustainable development based on the land definition of the sustainable development. So the development is a two-directional one. That two-directional kind of relationship is conceptually represented by this chart. And the next one is, of course, this chart represent that is the well-being elsewhere, and how here and now and elsewhere are connected. The basic phenomena are same, but how they are connected. So there is a global capital. So that because of the flow of global capital, so and also because of some other economic activities which exchange between the countries or the territories or the regions of the world, like imports, export, financial transport, migrations. So because of this, so there is a link between the present situation within a country with the global or the other countries. So then one more is the here and now and later. So how the current human activities that are affecting on the future generations. So earlier, as we have noted, that can be depicted by this conceptual framework. So if you just observe this, so for this human welfare or human well-being, consumption is required. All types of consumption, not just economic consumption. Okay, so that depends upon various types. So just you observe these. Phenomena. So for example, for this consumption, production is needed. For this production, capital is needed. Okay, then so this produces income for the people, and for that investment is also required, and the investment is depreciate. So like this, since we are the teachers of economics, we are well known about this path of the consumption and production analysis, or a flow of the economic activities, as of course we are studied in our the economic models. So any of these kinds of economic activities not only influence on the present or the current generations, but also effects on the future generations. So that is the effect of these activities, human activities in the future, is represented by, right, that is the human well-being in the current, in the later generations is affected by all these economic activities. So this is one more, that is the year and elsewhere. The same earlier we have noted that in terms of some other phenomena. So like this, any methodology that has to be proposed to estimate sustainable development, okay, all these aspects, that is here and now, then later and elsewhere, all the factors, all the aspects, all the phenomena which are involved in this process of human activities should be included in proposing a methodology for estimation of sustainable development. And based on that earlier 3 classifications of a methodology proposed to estimate the sustainable development, for example, the common themes which have been identified by the literature on the human well-being, like in case of human development report, in Stiglitz and other reports and the other works, okay, these are the indicators. Just to read out them, For example, the themes which are identified to measure the well-being of the human, like subjective well-being, consumption and income, nutrition, health, labor, and so on, water, air quality, trust, institutions, like this. So these are the various themes, various indicators which have been used by the previous studies, reports, to construct human well-being. Just for example, if you take human development report includes only 3 out of this. They are consumption and income, health, and education. So the consumption and income is the GDP related indicator. The other 2 are given explicitly there. That's why out of these several indicators which represent human well-being, our human development index is just a part of this human well-being. So that is the important point. That is the limitation we should have to consider as in including or considering human development as a method of sustainable development. Whereas, for example, if you include strictly related, so they have included many except three indicators. The majority of these 3 indicators which are used in literature is used to calculate the human well-being by this report. The same is also holds good in case of Eurostat expert group, but LAERS only include few. And OECD countries related how is life. So they have calculated this human well-being in OECD countries that also include majority of this. So this just shows based on the availability, based on the requirement, based on the need. Probably, of course, these different reports or the studies by the previous researchers, so included some are few and the 3 are, of course, out of these 6 or 5 studies, the majority of these human well-being indicators have been included. Then the one more, of course, things are this. Of course, just earlier we have noted that these are the human well-being things identified by UNO associations. So out of these UNO associations, previous studies are included, majority, only few by the 2 studies, including the Human Development Index, just we were noted that. Then the second part is related to measuring capital. Earlier we have noted that is economic capital, natural capital, human capital, social capital. These are the 4 important themes identified by the UNO and other researchers to include these as the capital stock in measuring the sustainable development. So within this, for example, the dimension is capital, sub-dimension is these 4 types of capital, and to measure these 4 capital, the themes has to be identified, the indicators has to be identified. The 3 themes which are used in the literature to measure economic capital are EC1, EC2, and EC3 represent economic capital 1 to 3, and physical capital, knowledge capital, and financial capital. So that's why in measuring sustainable development, under capital stock, in economic capital, these 3 themes, physical, knowledge, and financial capital has to be included. Whereas in case of natural capital, energy resources, non-energy resources, land and ecosystems, water, air quality, climate. There are 6 themes have been proposed by the UNO organizations to measure national capital. Then the next, under human capital, 3 things, labor, education, and health. Whereas in case of social capital, 2 things, that is trust and institutions. So totally 3, 9, 12, and say 2. Totally 14 types of themes have been identified to measure the capital stock, and of course the amount of capital stock used by year and now, and how much out of this is, of course, leaves behind by the current consumption, because that is the most important point that also tell us about the amount which we have left out for future consumptions. That's why the measurement of this aspect is another most important part. Then the last but not the least, that is related to effect of elsewhere, that is transboundary impact. How to measure transboundary impacts, or what kind of themes, phenomena should be included in the methodology to measure transboundary effect or elsewhere effect. So the subdivisions are these. So again, in case of this transboundary effect, that is consumption and income has to be included, natural capital, human capital, social capital, economic capital, because this transboundary effect is the effect of any human activity of a particular person on the others, on the other country. So hence the same indicators have been, or the themes have been used here. The subdivisions or subdimensions are used for that subdimensions. So the same kind of earlier things which we have used as a themes here. And how to compare that? So here, of course, some blank shells are given. So of course, that is, you should have to write down the country A, country B, and for example, developing countries and so on. And you should have to compare whether is there any negative kind of transboundary effect is due to because of an economic activity taken in country A, country X, on country A, country B, or on developing countries. So by filling these cells, you are able to comment, or you are able to interpret the transboundary effect and the sustainable aspect of that. So by using these themes. Okay, this is about the another method proposed by UN related associations related to measuring or estimating sustainable development. And again, of course, as we already noted that earlier, the 20 themes I have told you that. Okay, this year and now, later, and elsewhere, these classifications which has been proposed by the recent studies, okay, including the institutions, they have broadly identified 20 themes. These 20 themes has to be included. And earlier we have taken for discussion separately. Now we have represented, or we have seen all the previous themes which we have taken to represent the themes and sub-themes for these three aspects, three dimensions, put in a single table. This table includes both conceptual and thematic categorization of human well-being or sustainable development. So the well-being, human well-being, that is here and now, capital, that is later, transboundary impact, that is elsewhere. So this is the one of the most important table which we should have to bear in your mind. So if you want to so make use these phenomena or the themes for analyzing sustainable development, and that is 20 themes. Those 20 themes are of course derived from a broad set. The same UN organizations, UN relay associations, they have also identified and increased the number of the thematic categorizations. 20 to 24 here you have been observed. And there is also a 60 indicators they have proposed. So when again they have identified 90 indicators. So I have gone through that one report of that UN organization. So of course, majority of this has been taken from that. So for proposing a method to measure or a framework to measure sustainable development, so they have initially 90. So then reduces to a small set of, then a medium set of 60 indicators. Then they reduce it to 24. Finally, they have identified the 20 indicators, 20 thematic categorizations to measure sustainable development. Okay, so that is related to the second part of our discussion from the first session itself. And the last but not the least, related to that. So as I already told you that, so the researchers, international agencies, and so on, they have proposed their own method to measure sustainable development. But finally, whether they are useful in practice or not, whether they are applicable in practice or not, that to my knowledge, that they are all based on the availability of the facts, availability of the information. So this table provides information regarding the data availability of the indicators, both large sample and small sample. So the large sample, earlier I have told you that the large set means it includes 90 indicators. What happens if all the 90 indicators have been included related to availability of the data? And if it is to say small set, what is that? So probably you might have been already seen that. So if you take anyone, for example, if you take the data available, the major sources of data availabilities are this UN or Eurostat database. Okay, so if you just taken this for year end now, only 73% of the data is available. Whereas for later calculation of the themes related to later, only 42%, even in a country like Eurostat. That is the OECD countries, they are included, and the majority of the OECD countries are included in that group. So there only 42% is available. Elsewhere, it is only 50. Total, if you take total, only 55% of the data is available to calculate the indicators. So then, of course, the reliability, the preciseness of the estimated value is questioned here. If you take large samples, if you take large set of indicators. That's why of course there is a criticism level against on sustainable development, and why on the United Nations programs, why United Nations programs included only 3 indicators from the last 30 years, though there is a criticism related to that because it is not a comprehensive measure of human development. Probably all of us knew that because of this reason. So if they include many variables, many indicators, because of unavailability of the data, they are not able to calculate and report and publish the Human Development Index for all the countries. So might be because of that reason, so they have included only fewer one. So that might be, of course, observed from this data availability. So if you just take only small set of, that is the 24 indicators are the themes identified by UNO, then for example 100% in case of this, whereas 92% from UN related resources. Okay, then 8% in related to some of these variables. So like this, if you just observe that, so there is a differences in the availability of the information. So because of that only, though theoretically, thematically, the large number of indicators, large number of concepts have been proposed, developed by the researchers, but at the operationalization stage or in pragmatic time, so they are used only few. Probably it is due to because of availability of data. So this is a comment, and in my perception, related to this use of only few small set in calculation or estimation of sustainable development. Okay, that is related to an international related method of measuring the sustainable development, and the pragmatic way, the practical way, or the methodology that has been used in Indian case for calculation of sustainable development, of course, provided by this slide. Okay, this is the methodology proposed by Sustainable Development Solution Network. That is Indian government has been using this methodology to compute or to measure the sustainable development India as a whole, and also the state-wise sustainable development values are also available, not just for say the whole sustainable development value, even for all 17 goals. Of course, we have values for all the states that is reported by the sustainable development related report that is which is available with free of cost. So I have taken these slides from that sustainable development report of India, a recent report. So this is the methodology that has been followed by Indian government to calculate sustainability of India or our economy. Okay, the 4 categorization are there, and of course this methodology is used in 2020 index. That is how the methodology works like this. First, identification. normalization and weightage, individual goal score, and composite goal score. And what that mean is identification is that, so there are several indicators have been proposed earlier, we have noted that. So out of that, the indicators has to be identified. Okay, and based on the state-wise acceptability and availability of the data, as I already have told you that. Based on the state-wise acceptability and availability of the data. So that's why first indicators are identified based on availability of the data and acceptability at the state level. That is the first step. The second step is normalization, because from indicator to indicator, as earlier I have told you that, okay, they are not directly comparable. Hence, the normalization has done. That is the normalization in terms of rescaling indicators and representing them in terms, all of us know that, from a scale of 0 to 100. Saying if all the indicators are converted into 0 to 100, then they are all standardized, normalized, and there is no any difficulty in comparing them. That is called as normalization. And the third one is, we should have to provide weightage for that. So weightage here in the sense that, say, the impedance, based on the impedance, not all the indicators might have equal impedance. You should have to give some impedance to some indicators. Some indicators are not as much as the indicators of the others. By taking into account all these aspects, so you should have to give weights. That is the weightage stage. Then the next one is, after giving weightage, you should have to compute the values individually. That is called as individual goal score computation. Compute the each state's aggregate by calculating arithmetic mean of the normalized values of all the indicators for each state. So there are several indicators, for example, if they have taken, then how to average this, just take the method, that is arithmetic mean. Take sum of all the values of the say indicators, sum it, divided it by the total number of the indicators. That gives you the average arithmetic mean, or the arithmetic mean value at the individual goal level. So then composite score is aggregate. That is aggregated states overall SDG index score by averaging all the scores. That is, so each one is, because in each goal there are several indicators. Okay, then first goal indicator, goal score is calculated based on the average. Again, the overall score is again calculated based on the arithmetic mean. This is the procedure that has been followed in this Sustainable Development Report of India. And this is the comparison of the all goals, 16 goals, because the partnership related goal is not measured. So hence only 16 goals are given here. And of course, I hope many of us have seen the colors given in this Sustainable Development Report, and we should have to interpret that values are the colors based on that value. For example, so one, if it is red, for red it is aspirant, and there is also a given name for that, and they have classified this the goal, that is the score from 0 to 100 as 4 categories. One is from 0 to 49, and they are called it as aspirants. And from 50 to 64, it is called as performing stage. And next, from 65 to 99, it is called as front runners. And if 100% is achieved, that is called as achiever. That's why, because in majority of the reports which are making use of these types of colors for representing the values, we should have to have the knowledge related to that. So, and hence, and also there is one more type of indication has been, symbol has been used in case of Sustainable Development Reports. It shows also at the India level and also at the international level. So that is arrow marks. So if there is an upward arrow mark, that is an improvement. If it is horizontal, stagnation. So if it is downward, it is declining. Okay, so that's why based on the direction of that arrow mark also we are able to, because one snapshot is given at the front page of that is sustainable development report. That snapshot, okay, provides you about all these things. So that's why it is just a comparison of the sustainable development in terms of its goals, 16 goals between two periods, that is 2019 to 2020. There is no any change in goal number 1, goal number 2. There is an improvement in goal number 3. Okay, and likewise you should have to interpret this. And one more is based on the 2021 report. Okay, there might be another classification and also the analysis of this human development or the sustainable development report is classifying the states, for example, India, or countries as topmost or bottommost states or countries. The same is also done in case of sustainable development report. So, for example, if you take top 5 states which are performing well in sustainable development are Kerala, Himachal Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Goa, Karnataka, Uttarakhand, Sikkim and Maharashtra, having the scores from 70 to 75. Whereas the bottom 5 states are Chhattisgarh, Nagaland, Odisha, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Assam, Jharkhand and Bihar. So they are having the number from 52 to 61. So these are the calculated values. These are the sustainable development values calculated based on the earlier methodology. Just we have noted that, or the steps we just noted that. So these are the 5 first states and the bottom states in case of 2021 report. And this is all the states. Okay, this shows the number of all the states and all the union territories. So, and of course, here we have been observed that, so some of the states are for farmers, and some of the states are in overall are front runners. That's why here, so there is no any aspirants below 49 states are not seen in case of average value. But if you get into the 16 goals, of course, you might have seen the states in all the categories. Some of the states, for example, if you take hunger and related, so some states comes under aspirant. Their values are below 49. That has been seen in that report. Okay, so this is one, and of course, just this is the number 1 states that comes in each of these 16 indicators. For example, the highest score for the state in case of no poverty is Tamil Nadu and Delhi. That is, they are scoring highest number. That is, they are more sustainable compared to the other states. Whereas in case of goal number 2, no hunger, Kerala and Chhattisgarh. These two states are having highest score compared to other states in terms of zero hunger. Likewise, here we have the top states, 1 or 2 states or the few states related to that. For example, related to the good health and well-being, Gujarat and Delhi. So like this, of course, these are all taken from that report, as just I have told you that. So themselves, or the report itself is depicted this. So I have not done anything for that. Okay, I have just taken this figure from that sustainable development report. And if you observe the change that has been happened in their value, and the states which have scoring the highest value, if you observe that, so if you take the 3 states, for example, Mysore, Haryana and Uttarakhand, so there is a large increase just in 1 year. From 1920 to 2021, the highest amount of change or the change in score is in Mizoram. Earlier, that means in 1920, the average, that is the average score of in the Sustainable Development Report was only 56. That increases to 68. So in just 1 year, 12% or the 12 score has been increased. The Haryana, it has been increased by 10 score, and whereas in Uttarakhand by 8. These are the, okay, the 3 states where there is a top, there is a large increase in sustainable development values. And if you take the overall, as earlier we have noted that there is no state that comes under aspirant below 45 value. And of course, there are few states we are having the values between 50 to 60. And as all of us knew that the majority of these states are, so of course, the northeastern state and the central states of India, like say, and some northern states, Uttar Pradesh, again, that is the Rajasthan, Jharkhand, and say, of course, even West Bengal comes under that, Madhya Pradesh. And of course, from several years, we have been hearing that word Bimaru states, Bimaru states. So the same Bimaru states probably appears in majority of the indicators. The same is also holds good in case of this Sustainable Development Index. And the front runners, again, the most of the states comes here, and there are no achievers, no state has a value of 100. So that's why all the states of India are having the value above 49 but below 99. So this can be the conclusion we can give based on the sustainable development values reported by the Sustainable Development Report of 2021. And of course, the same data is represented in terms of this map. And now we have 3 reports, 2018, 2019, and one more is 2020 report. And of course, this slide compares, okay, the 18 with 19 reports, and the 3 states moved from being aspirants to becoming performer states. That means if you observe, there are 3 categories in case of 2018, that is aspirants, performer, and front runner. But whereas in case of 2019, all the 3 states, that is Uttar Pradesh, and then Arunachal Pradesh, and Bihar. Okay, earlier they are in aspirant level, that is below 49 value, but in 2019 they become recovered from that to the next stage. Whereas in 2020 and 2019, okay, you might have been observed that is green has been increased, that the yellow is reduced. Yellow represent performer, the green represent front runner, the value above 64. That's why from 2019 to 2020, according to the report, so there is an increase in the values of the some of the states. And just by observation of this, again, as I have told you that, so the sustainable development is very, very poor relatively in the middle India, middle part of India compared to other, including the northeastern states. That's why any policy, yes, of course, we have started with a discussion, like why, of course, we need all these kinds of measurements, representations, calculations, and so on to make policies and policy decisions. So that's why any policy that given importance for sustainable development, they should have to focus on the central part of India, This might be the conclusion we can give as a policy thing. So this is about, again, a comparison over a period. Earlier I have told you that. So of course, this is related to one more diagram. So we need not get into this. Okay, the same related one. Okay, same related one related to one of the indicator. Okay, this is about the status of India. Okay, status of India. Then one more I want to show you that. So the report itself. Okay, this is of course it is in India level. It is 22. Okay, it is the 22. So here this is the page which I just told you that. So the India ranking in terms of sustainable development at the world level, 121 out of 163 countries. 163 countries. Okay, and this is
Not visible, sir, PPT.
not visible. Okay. 1 minute.
Screen is not visible, sir.
1 minute, please.
You close that file and
So whether it is visible now?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, this is the new report. Okay, this is the new report. According to new report, the value is okay 60.3, and it is at the global level. The India stands at 121 out of 163 countries for which the Sustainable Development Report has been published. Okay, and of course this is important. Okay, these are the 17 goals. Okay, earlier I have told you that along with the colors and the arrow marks, the picture has been given. So that represent, if of course this pink color, there is a major challenges. So probably you might have been observed that. So though in terms of the average of the sustainable development, earlier we have noted that is only if you take only that value of 60, 65, 70, 74 at the state level. So probably we have seen they are performing state or front runner states. But if you get into the actual indicator wise, goal wise, so probably you have seen here majority of those goals. For example, zero hunger. The third one is good health and well-being. Then gender equality related. So then clean water and sanitation and so on. 3, 6. So 10 out of 16, there are 10 goals. The India is facing challenge. That's why that pink color represent major challenges. That's why India is facing major challenges in terms of 10 out of 16 goals. 16 goals. This is the first interpretation we can give it. So then the second one, then the significant, the yellow one represent of course this one. Okay, this one represent the significant challenges. So there are challenges. That's why the arrow mark is somehow a slant one. Whereas for this, okay, hunger, it is arrow mark is horizontal. That means stagnating. That means there is no improvement compared to previous period. Okay, that is of course another important point. Compared to previous period, compared to previous year, there is no any improvement in reduction in hunger from its level, current level. That's why it has a horizontal arrow mark. Whereas for first one, no poverty, a slanty arrow mark with upward manner that represent moderately improving. Though there is a poverty, but the improvement is not significant. It is moderate. So that moderate kind of improvement has been found for no poverty, affordable and clean energy, and in case of that is the well-being and good health, and other some indicators. We have only 2 green. Those 2 green represent SDG is achieved. They are related to climate action, and the other one is responsible consumption and production. And they are on track, are maintaining SDG achievement. It doesn't mean that. So all these things are not like green, not like 100%. So there is a target. All of knew that there is a target. So that target has been achieved out of 16 by only 2 indicators, or the 2 goals. They are represented with green. So that's why. So related to the recent report, that is the 2022 report of Sustainable Development Goal. So the majority of the goals are in danger zone, means the India is facing major challenges related to these 10 out of 16 goals. The 2 are on track, and the remaining 4, of course, are moderately improving. So this is the opinion we can give, or the interpretation we can give related to this overall performance of India. It's not state-wise. Okay, it is India in terms of this 2022 Sustainable Development Report. Okay, so then of course also have a full report. There I have to show you the whole okay, this is the whole report. That is the way this report around is 190 pages. Okay, which includes the discussion of sustainable development and its status, and also both spatial and temporal analysis. Earlier I have told you is given in this report. For example, so if I want to show you, okay, now it is 48 page number. Okay, it is related to first report. Okay,
so file is not visible.
Yeah, not visible. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So that is visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is related to the first goal. Okay, first goal. And earlier, in case of that dashboard, that is actually earlier diagram which I have shown you, that is called as dash. That was given in dashboard. But this is the whole report. Within this report, goal, that is the goal wise, goal number 1, 2. Accordingly, they are discussed. For in-depth discussion, you should have to go through this. Okay, so this a diagram in the right side, that gives you an idea of, so the in terms of poverty, where poverty is higher. Earlier we have noted that on the average, so there is no change in poverty. That is the major challenge India is facing. But unfortunately, that is not equally distributed. That is not all the states are facing problem of poverty. So that is the major problem among the states is marked here. That is the aspirant states, like they are the states like this Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Orissa, say Chhattisgarh. These are the 6 states. Their poverty in terms of sustainability is less than 0. That means they are in the red zone. So that's why, of course, as all of us, as the teachers of economics. So on the average, might be our value looks good, but if you get into the deep, if you get into the individual level, that you might have seen a different world. So that different world in terms of poverty, you might have seen this. So that's why you should have to go through with everyone. Okay, everyone. Please mute. Put your mobile mute. Hello. Okay, goal 1, and in this goal 1, of course, again they are mentioned or given data related to some indicators for that poverty. With how the poverty index has been calculated, they are given like this. Okay, like you should have to go through that report if you are interested. Of course, every year, okay, the Indian government publishing that report. You can do a research work on both spatial and temporal analysis of the sustainable development aspect. And if you take, for example, goal number 2, so this is the goal number 2, no hunger. So poverty was being seen in only 5 to 6 states. Just observe hunger, that is even extended to Maharashtra and Gujarat. Also, it is extended to then are some few northeastern states. So just by visualization of this map, we are able to comment on the state and the status of each goal that has been vividly given in this report. Okay, so then, for example, if you get into the next one, this is good health and well-being. Somehow, of course, it is compared to first two. You might have seen there is no red, there is no any aspirants, only performers and the front runners has been observed in case of health-related aspect. So then, whereas come to education, quality education, again you have been observing a red aspirants. So 1, 3, 4, say then 5, almost 9 states are suffering from the low quality of education. Okay, so then if you get into the next one, gender inequality, of course, it is widely spread. If you just observe that in Andaman Nicobar, in Lakshadweep, the highest gender equality has been found in Andaman and Nicobar. Might it is because of that is the race, but whereas in case of other states, so you have seen that is only performing, not even front runner. None of the states are in front runner in case of gender equality. They are just only the performers. So the 10 to, it is of course around half of the Indian states are facing with inequality in case of gender. So that's why there is a lot of scope to work on this issue. And also, as all of us knew that the sustainable development is the current issue. It is a prominent issue from last 3 decades. So hence, anyone who want to work, do research, probably the best area is that sustainable development, and you need not to get into do the work, your research work on every indicator, every goal. So you should have to select 1 or 2 goals, compare them, and compare across the period and across the states or your selected regions. That would become the best research work. So with these words, I don't want to get into the further the remaining another 11 or 10 goals, or the 11 or 12 goals. Similarly, you might have been able to see the same kind of differences across the states. That's why there is no uniformity in sustainable development across the states. In majority of the goals, there is a highly uneven nature of sustainable development has been observed among the Indian states. That might be the conclusion we can give by observation of all the indicators across the state. It is called as a state level analysis. With these words, to conclude on my lecture from the last 2 classes, my lecture was focused on, in the first part, the methodological aspects of measurement of sustainable development. And of course, I am unable to get into all types of or the methods proposed by the researchers or the institutions. I stick on to the that is United Nations related associations which were proposed for measuring sustainable development, and their theoretical foundations and the limitations are the practical issues in using those methods in measuring sustainable development in the first session. And in continuation of that, in the second session, also we have extended that somewhat. And the last part of our discussion is related to the status of Indian sustainable development across the states based on the recent sustainable development report published by Government of India. So with these words, I wind up my discussion. So now, of course, if any questions or queries, as earlier I have told you that, so of course I have not much worked on this area, hence, if you have any doubts, I try my level best to answer for your question. Otherwise, probably Prem Kumar is worked much on this. So Prem Kumar will help you for that. Thank you, one and all. Now you unmute your gadgets. So I hope I reach you. So ellaru Karnataka or is there any participants from other than Karnataka, outside Karnataka?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, thank you then. Okay, please, we have another around 15 minutes. So have a discussion. And also I have seen some familiar faces. Some are of our students are participating in this RC. No questions? ಏನಿಲ್ಲ questions, doubts, clarifications. ನಾನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ತಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ need not to do a PhD work ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ, even if you want to continue your research ಅಲ್ಲ for publications and others, ಬಹುಶಃ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮಗಿರೋದು ಈ ಸಸ್ಟೈನಬಲ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್. And use data is available related to, of course, selected indicators, and they are all secondary in nature. And of course, we need not to pay in many of the cases, which is freely downloadable, freely available from even organizations, and also from Indian government.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I just want to ask you that you have explained about that green extension of HDA.
Yeah, madam.
Okay. So it's just a confusing green extension of the HDA. So the measurement of the green extension of HDA is the same as whenever we are calculating the HDA. So what is the difference between the simple HDA criteria and green extension? Somehow I'm confused.
Oh, madam. Yeah, madam. In computation of human development index, only 3 thematic concepts are used.
Yeah.
We are all know it, but greening it or to use that HDI as a method of measuring sustainable development. Since income is one of the component of human development index, so that income has to be modified by using environmental aspects, or we should have to detect the deterioration of environment from the income. So then that becomes greening. The income is greening, and of course that greening of human development index not to do with other components, that is education and health, they are intact. Only that is related to the first component, that is the income. That means that has to be modified. Since it is not modified by taken into that environmental aspects, and we cannot continue it calling it as a human development index, because now we are using for the purpose of measuring sustainable development. That is greening of income component in human development. So hence it is called a green HDA.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
And sir, the criteria regarding to the education is the same, na?
Yeah.
Which we have taken in previous calculation of the HDA.
Yeah, of course, to my knowledge. So the methodology or the indicators which are used for those 2 components are same. But whereas for income, it is modified. And one more related to that, of course, that is sustainable human development index. In case of sustainable human development index, so the sustainability is used as one of the indicators. Environmental aspects, ecological aspects are used as one of the another component. Instead of 3, you have 4 components there. Sustainable human development index and green sustainable human development index.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yeah.
good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you said about the temporal, that is time series analysis.
Yeah.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, audible.
Sir, if you are conducting a temporal study or a time series study,
Okay.
usually the parameters which we will be using will be changed, the measurement will be changed, or it will be one and the same, sir?
It should be same.
Yeah, otherwise it
Yeah,
is of no use to means it cannot be materialized to conduct the time series analysis or panel panel data.
Okay. Because for using any phenomenon for comparison, you should have to measure with same units. The two different variables which are measured in different units cannot be comparable. So that's why in case of temporal analysis, the same phenomenon is compared over a period of time.
Over a period of time.
That's why the same unit of measurement should be there, and of course they are standardized. So because they are given by institution, given by the government, we are using the indicators of the sustainable development, and as a researcher our purpose is to compare the trends, what happens to that over a period of time. And if you even want to continue that, what factors are responsible for changes. So the meaning is that in case of spatial analysis, you are just comparing across the units, entities. There also you are able to examine what factors are responsible for differences between the entities. For example, if you take the same old 2022 report of SDI, okay, there you have noted that in case of no poverty, in case of no hunger, and so on, the values of sustainable development of all the states are not same. Then if you want to answer for that, that is comparison among entities, comparison among regions, in this case states. Further also you are able to identify, explore the reasons why there is a difference, and so on. But change is not comes there. Dynamism is not comes there. But in case of temporal analysis, your focus is on dynamism. Your focus is on change. Why the SDI was 66 earlier? Why it is now 68? What factors are responsible for this improvement? Or if it is decline, what factors are responsible for this? This cannot be done by using cross-sectional analysis, spatial analysis. To answer for both these two, you have to combine. That is panel longitudinal analysis. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes, madam.
Sir, as per the report, whichever you have shown for the 2022, India have achieved the SDG 20 for the SDG for the green energy or the green climate or the climate change.
That was shown green, no? Which means that's why earlier I told you that. So
Yeah.
the Indian government as one target.
Okay.
So not sustainable development. That's why earlier also my discussion, in theoretical discussion, I told you that no one sustainable development methods given a threshold level. That is, this is the last value in terms of sustainable development. So no methodology has given that. Here that green represent, there is a target.
Whatever the net zero by 2030 or the 2070, that was the target given by the.
No, that is not for that, but that particular year, because probably that has been classified into year wise, you know.
Okay.
In that particular year. So in case of that particular goal, he has achieved the target in that period. That's all. Not of the 2030s.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, welcome. So is there any more? Okay, how do you feel it? These two sessions, because of course we the teachers, it is very difficult for us to sit and listen to others for 6 hours a day. Alva.
It was very nice, sir. I'm basically from Gujarat, sir. It was very nice to hear you. Really, I got the number of information regarding to the SDG, which where I was confused.
Thank you.
The session was really nice.
Yes, of course, I have told you that I have not done work on this, madam. So just I have got through some literature. Of course, I have seen it from last few years. So based on that, I have collected some reports, and this class is not of course, my experience. It is based on the earlier literature. That's all.
It was really, sir. I can say that emphasizing. It was very nice to hear you.
Thank you.
I'm very glad to hear you. Whatever the information that you have given to us.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Welcome, madam. Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no queries or questions, I thank the department and also the Professor Prem Kumar for giving me this opportunity. And also I thank HRDC and I also extend my thanks to all you for your patience listening from last almost 3 hours. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just 1 minute. Hello, sir. Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think, sir, that's, sir was, he want to propose the vote of thanks, I think.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So,
Hello.
yes, please, yeah.
Hello, sir. I am Dr. Ramzan Major from Maharashtra.
Okay.
Firstly, I heartily thankful for your nice presentation, sir. And you have given us valuable information from your lecture, and we got new concepts like green GDI. So, on the behalf of HRDC and all the participants, I thankful to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Once again, I extend my thanks to one and all. Thank you very much. So, see
Okay,
you
sir.
later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.